Have you noticed how much advice there is on the internet about language learning, about anything really? It's very easy to find advice on anything you want these days. And because I'm a language teacher, I'm an English teacher, I'm going to talk about the language learning advice that I always see on the internet. I've seen teachers say, don't study grammar, for example. Don't study the grammar of the language. Don't study English grammar. Throw away your grammar books, because how to learn a language, if you want to learn a language, you should go out in the real world and use it. You have to speak the language. You have to speak English, because language is for communication. But then I've seen teachers say, well, no, language is made of grammar, so you should study. You should study how sentences are formed. You should study the tenses, how to express future meanings, how to talk about the past. And there are a lot of grammar videos online. Like if you Google present perfect versus past simple, you will find, well, I don't know how many videos you will find, because there are so many out there, and so many teachers teach grammar on YouTube, on TikTok, on social media. So, should you study grammar or not? I've heard teachers say, well, don't worry about sounding like a native speaker of English. I'm talking about English, but this applies to any language. Don't sound like don't worry if you don't sound like a native speaker, because that's not the goal, okay? The goal is, again, communication. The goal is to make yourself understood. It's fine to have an accent. Everyone has an accent, and I agree with that. But there are teachers who insist on, this is how we pronounce the TH sound in English. It's not the, it's the. So put your tongue between your teeth, and this is how you pronounce it. Okay, repeat after me. So they insist on helping people to sound like a native, basically. And I agree with that. I agree that it's okay to sound like a native. I mean, it's okay if your goal is to sound like a native. I was a learner of English, and my native language is Italian, so I had to learn English, and I loved the British accent when I was in London. So I wanted to sound like English people there. I wanted to sound British because I loved the sound. I loved the sound of the accent. When I moved to Australia, I wanted to sound Australian. Then I moved to New Zealand. I wanted to sound New Zealand, so I imitated those sounds. So it's fine if you want to sound like a native. Okay? So should you study grammar or not? Should you sound like a native or not? So what's the story here? So this is why I believe that you should question every single piece of advice that you get. The teachers online, me included, don't know you. They don't know your situation. They don't know how you like learning. They don't know what you want. They don't know what your goal is. So we give advice, okay? We give general advice. Okay, of course, we will never say to... I will never say that to learn a language you need to only study 8 hours a day. I mean, that's anyone who says that, they don't know what they're talking about, okay? But the advice that you receive you should always question it, and you should always, I think, question this advice too. Question what I'm saying too. Like, don't feel that what I'm saying is true, or don't feel that what I'm saying applies to your situation. So don't believe anything I'm saying. You need to try things out. Okay, the best way to learn a language is to try things out and see if they work for you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't trust the experts. Okay, I'm not saying that from now on everything you hear online is, it's false, or is not reasonable or whatever. But see if it works for you. See if it works for you, because learning a language, as I said, learning in general is a highly personal activity. So the teachers out there, they don't know your specific situation. Maybe, like an example, my girlfriend, my partner, Aloha, she learned English in New Zealand and in Australia because she worked in an English-speaking environment. So she picked up the language in the streets, all right? So she's never opened a grammar book. She's an advanced speaker of English. She can communicate well. She can understand movies. She can read books in English. Okay, she still makes some mistakes, like me. I still make mistakes, okay? But imagine if she goes online, she wants to improve her English, she goes online and she hears, don't study grammar, focus on communication, go out there, use the language, this is how to learn a language, this is the best way. And she said, well, this is what I've been doing all my life with English, so I'm doing just fine. But actually, I think it's better if she focuses on grammar now. It's time to open a grammar book. I know that she will never do it because she's not that interested in learning English, but the best advice for her right now at this stage is to open a grammar book and study the grammar a little bit. And I'm sure that a lot of the things that she's not sure about will start to make sense. Because she told me more than once that she speaks English, but she doesn't know, like, if you ask her, why did you say I'm going to rather than will? She has no idea, because she's never studied it, okay? And it's not that she must study. She just needs to probably learn a little bit about the language so she can apply it. She can apply the knowledge and bring her English from here to here, okay? This is the advice that I would give her. I wouldn't say focus on communication, just go out there and speak. No, this is not right for her right now. This is not the right advice, I believe, okay? So, another example, when I was a learner of English, my teachers told me to keep a vocabulary notebook. And I give this tip to my students now as well. So if you want to remember words, write them down, review them, have an organized vocabulary notebook. Write next to the word, you can write if it's a noun, if it's a verb. You can write the translation if you want. So, have your words in one place so you can easily access them. Okay, you can easily review them. But this tip, this has never worked for me. I had a vocabulary notebook and I never looked at it, never, because this is not how I like learning. Writing things down doesn't really help me in any considerable way. I learned words by hearing them. I remember noticing, and I still do it now, I notice how people express their message. And I think, oh, so that's the word that she used to say this. Oh, this is how we say that. Okay. And somehow my brain, that word is automatically in my brain and I will remember it. I don't know, it's not a special talent that I have, it's just how my brain works. Writing things down doesn't work for me, okay? So when you hear teachers giving you advice, don't feel that that's the best advice for you. Don't feel that what I'm saying in this video or in this podcast, if you're listening to the podcast, is the right thing for you, because I don't know your specific situation, okay? Maybe this doesn't apply to you, and it's perfectly, it's okay if this doesn't apply to you. But I encourage you to question every single tips, every single piece of advice that you get from the experts. The experts, they know what they're talking about. They've studied. I've studied language acquisition. I've studied. I was trained to be a teacher. Okay, so I know how to facilitate language learning. But so I think you should trust what I'm saying, but try it out. Try it out and see if that works for you. Okay? Please consume advice responsibly. I hope this is helpful. Let me know what you think about this if you want. And bye-bye.